If you're going to project verses, you can project verse number 3rd Canto, 28th chapter, verse number 20. All is working fine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadurtam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritam Sha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Teshatarini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautasi Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gau Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, आप सभी का स्वागत है. Oh, this is English, right? So welcome everyone for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class, part of Bhagavat Life program. We are reading from 3rd Canto, 28th chapter. In the last discussion, we discussed up to verses 21. And we'll begin today's discussion from verse number 20, just to, because from 20th, another section begins. So here, this chapter titled as Kapila's Instruction on Devotional Service. Natai Gaur Haribol. Yeah. You can see that. All right, this is good, I guess. Okay. So this chapter, Kapil Dev begins to answer Mother Devati's questions. And the first part of our discussion was how to practice yoga. And Prabhupada and the Prabhupada says the instructions given by, although the discussion is of Ashtanga Yoga, our Prabhupada says the instruction given by Kapila Dev, very important for all the followers of Bhakti Yoga practice also. And now from text number 20, Ashtanga Yoga means Ashta Anga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So now Dhyan, meditation on whom should we meditate? As the Kali Yuga have progressed, so does only one thing has progressed in Kali Yuga. Everything else have only reduced. प्रायेण अल्प आयुष्य सभ्य कलावस्मिन् युगे जनः मंद सुमंद मत भाग्यो हि
क्या
उपद्रुतम्.
हुआ?
So everything have reduced. Only one thing have
नहीं, रुकिए
progressed. That is
कर
foolishness.
लेंगी.
People have become more foolish and more crazy. And the perfect example is even so-called spiritual organizations or sadhus or gurus who talk about you can meditate on anything and everything. And by meditating on anything,
नहाने जा रहे
you
हैं?
can attain the goal of Ashtanga Yoga. If
हाँ,
you have ever
वाले
solved, all of us have solved mathematics problem.
कार्ड
The
लेके
mathematic problem,
गए फिर.
regardless of what you have done, in trigonometry and the advanced
अच्छा.
mathematics, you are given marks stepwise. Huh? Disturbance. Hare Krishna. So, can all the participants be muted? Hare Krishna. All right. What was I saying? Hey, you guys have sat like this, मेरा गर्दन टेढ़ा हो जाएगा. कुछ इधर भी आओ ना. मैं ऐसे ऐसे हो रहा हूँ बार बार. You sit like this. Some of you come here on the side. Yeah. What was I saying? See, if you remember in the advanced mathematics, you are given marks not only for the correct answer, you are given marks also for the right steps, different steps. But imagine, regardless of how complex and advanced mathematics may it be, and you might have done all the steps correct, but in the very first step, if it was 1 plus 1, which is supposed to be 2, which you all know, but you accidentally wrote it 3, everything else is wrong. Even your advanced knowledge is useless. Such is the situation with these advanced yogis, so-called advanced yogis, where they don't know whom they're supposed to meditate. And because, just open this a little bit, it's getting dark. You सूर्य तो दोबारा आ जाए ढक जाने, ठीक है? Yeah. What was I saying? So because not knowing who is the object of meditation, everything that they do is shama eva hi kevalam. So here now, Kapil Dev, as part of his elaboration on the topic of Ashtanga Yoga, talks about what should be the object of meditation. The object of meditation is the Supreme Lord. So we have the verses. These are very, very beautiful verses. Of course, we are on the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. All of you, many of you have done Bhakti Shastri. I believe just by reading Prabhupada books, our understanding of Sanskrit would have improved to some extent. So here I'm going to demand all of you or request all of your attention to the Sanskrit. I will go to the meanings, of course, but will pay attention to the Sanskrit and see if you can, because we are able to go through the Sanskrit, your meditation will improve and see if you're able to meditate. So text number 20, Kapil Dev says, in fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take a collective view of all his limbs, but should fix the mind on each individual limb of the Lord. That's for the discussion. We discussed about it last time. I'm just reading translation. And from text number 21, limb by limb discussion of the form of the Lord begins and meditating. So for us to be able to meditate, we got to pay attention. You cannot be distracted. If you're distracted, you'll not be able to really absorb the subject matter. All right. Sanchantayat bhagvatashcharanaravindam vajrankushadvajasarrohualanchanatyam uttungaraktavilasannakhachakravala joshnabhi ahat mahad Dradyandhakaram. So this talks about Sanchityat. So pay attention to this word. It will come again, which means meditation. Bhagavatas, meditate on the Lord. What? Charanaravindam. So here the discussion on meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. So the moment lotus feet is talked about, Lord's lotus feet is decorated with certain symbols. The rest of the verse talks about those symbols. And then finally, it talks about the Lord's toenails. When you talk about the feet, toenails are part of it. And the last line says, Joshna ahat mahad dadyandakaram. And the toenails, the effulgence coming from the toenails of the Lord can destroy all the ignorance that have filled our heart. Let's read the translation. Getting the point here? So when moment you hear the word, the lotus feet of the Lord, then the symbols imprinting the lotus feet of the Lord should also come. Translation: the devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resemble the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. All right. Text number 22. So lotus feet, lotus feet has two parts. One is the lower part, one is the upper part, right? So the lower part has been discussed about it. Now the upper part will be discussed. Text number 22. So when we're going through with this, keep remembering what we have discussed. You'll be able to visualize the whole form of the Lord. That's the whole idea of dhyana. Yachauchani hristasarit pravardukena Pritena mudhani adhikritena shiva shivobhut Dhyaturmana shamala shaila nirashta vajram Dhyaye shiram bhagavatas charanaravindam Dhyayesh means meditate. Chira means for a long time. Bhagavatas charanaravindam. I'm speaking about the last line, on the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, what is the glory of the lotus feet of the Lord? One is the prints or the marks on the lotus feet of the Lord, gourd, banner, thunderbolts, and the lotus. These are the four imprints on the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the lotus feet of the Lord? Second represents on the lotus feet of the Lord, touching or washing his lotus feet comes Ganges. And then Ganges is accepted by none other than Lord Shiva. And the verse says, Shiva, Shivo Abhut. Shiva, who is all auspicious, after accepting the Ganges water, which has washed the lotus feet of the Lord, which has become Charnamrita, now makes Shiva more auspicious. Like this has been described. And then the second point, or the third point of the lotus feet is mentioned is the Lord's lotus feet is like thunderbolts, which can destroy the mountains of sins from one's life. Reading the translation. Getting the flow? I hope the lotus feet is captured in your consciousness. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. Lord Shiva. Prabhupada writes in the purport, first paragraph, sixth last line. Lord Shiva is important because he's holding on his head the holy Ganges water, which has its origin in the foot wash of Lord Vishnu. You all understand foot wash of Lord Vishnu? Trivikrama, when he pierced the shell of this universe, then the water of the Virija river fell into or came into this creation. When it came, it washed the feet of Trivikrama. When it washed the feet of Trivikrama, then it is called as Ganges, like that. In Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami, it is said, anyone who puts the Supreme Lord and the Devata, a very important point. I'm not going to discuss this, but for you to remember this and try to look at the things from this perspective. The study of Shastra is for the purpose of developing Shastra Chakshu, and then see if it is right or wrong. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami says, those who equate Supreme Lord and Devatas on the same level, they at once becomes Pashandis or atheists. Now, who put all the Devatas on the same level? What kind of philosophy is that? Mayavadi. That's it. Now, before coming to Krishna consciousness, we didn't know about the word Mayavadi, but did we all consider everyone to be same? Yes. So we all are Pashandis and atheists. Now, the reason I'm talking about it, it is always important to remember our background and upbringing. It's not because I put my hand in the bead bag and I've started to chant, my conditions will be evaporated overnight. It takes long time. But the problem is if we don't realize who we were and what conditionings we have brought in, we'll continue to act according to that conditionings. So be careful. It's very important once in a while to reflect upon oneself and seeing and understanding what it means to be. At times you become very proud. Oh, I used to go to the temple. I used to worship. Hey, wait a second. You're following Mayavada. You're Pashandi. Your worship had no value. So then we should, consider what's our background and act accordingly. All right. Lord Shiva, I have been thinking to speak about Lord Shiva. I'll not speak today. I mean, सावन का महीना चल रहा है आने वाला है कब आने वाला है Somebody give me the schedule. I'll have a series on Lord Shiva again for the third year. This time we're going to speak about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifying Lord Shiva. So please remind me. So I will, after this relationship management, on Sunday evening, we'll start Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies Lord Shiva. So we'll discuss that. And then we'll discuss Lord Shiva glorifies Srimati Radharani. We'll discuss both. Because we started with the 2 years before we started with who Lord Shiva is. Last year we discussed about Lord Shiva and Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we'll discuss about Lord Shiva being the greatest of the devotee. Like that. Okay. Please remind me of that so I'm aware of it. All right. Text number 23. So meditation is going on the lotus feet of the Lord with the footprints, not the footprints, the symbols. Okay. Text number 23. Attention. Don't get distracted. You'll not capture it. Pay attention to the verses. All right. Text number 23. So feet has been discussed about, right? So Kapil Dev says limb by limb. What is after feet? You can think about it, and that's what the next show is going to be. Janudvayam jala jalochana jananya Lakshmyakhilस्य suravanditya Lakshmyakhilस्य suravanditaya vidhatuhu Urvurnidhaya karapallavarocisayat Shamlalitam hridi vibho abhavasya kuryat Janudvayam jalaja लोचन्या जन्या So अब बात हो रही है भगवान के पैरों की. His legs have been talked about. And when the legs of the Lord are talked about, then Kapil Dev immediately remembers Mother Lakshmi sitting near the bed of Lord and massaging the feet of the Lord. That is the verse over here. Let's take a look. The yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi, who is known as Jananya. Janani is the word which means mother. So Mother Lakshmi is mother for all of us. Not Mother Lakshmi is mother for all of us. Mother Lakshmi is also the mother of Brahma. Then Prabhupada raises the question, how Mother Lakshmi is mother of Brahma? Brahma is born to Garbhadaksha Vishnu. And the verse also says, Abhavasya Kuryat. Abhavasya means who's transcendental. So how Mother Lakshmi is the mother of Brahma and for all of us? Prabhupada raises the question. You want to know the answer? Read the puppet later on. Okay? थोड़ा खुद भी पढ़ो. सब कुछ मैं बताऊंगा तो फायदा क्या है? All right. The yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by all devatas and is the mother of the supreme person, Brahma. She can always be found massaging the legs and thighs of the transcendent Lord, very carefully serving in this way. Beautiful meditation. Beginning with the symbols, then the feet, then Mother Ganges, then the legs, and now you have Mother Lakshmi sitting by the feet of the Lord, massaging the Lord's feet. All right. From the feet, next we go to the thighs of the Lord. Text number 24. Urus, we'll recite together now. Urus Puvarna Bhujayo Ravishobhamana Ojo Nidhi Atasika Kushumavabhaso Vyalambi Varavasasi Vartamana Kanchi Kalapa Parirambinitam Babimbam. So Uru, Suparna. Uru means thighs. Urvashi. So Urvashi means one who manifested from the Uru of Narayan Rishi. That's the reason that she got the name of Urvashi. Now why Urvashi? Uru means thighs. Vashi means the moment that lady manifested, the form manifested from the body of Narayan Rishi, Kamadevta, and all the damsels, all the what you call as The beautiful woman which was sent by Indra to distract the mind of Narana and Rishi. Forget about Kamdevta. Even the ladies fainted after they saw Urvashi. So therefore, it said Uru Vashi. The moment she appeared, she enchanted everyone. That's the reason her name is Urvashi. Uru, the two thighs. Now the discussion of the two thighs. Now, how do you measure two thighs? The two thighs are resting on the neck of Garudji. So now the discussion of Guruji comes. Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of God as thighs, the storehouse of all energy. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower, and appear most graceful when the Lord is carried on the shoulders of Garuda, not the neck, shoulders of Garuda. And also the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles. So the lower part of the body has been described with a yellow color cloth, and his thighs are resting on the shoulder of Garuda, his feet being massaged by Mother Lakshmi, and his feet like thunderbolts that can destroy the sins stored in the mind like mountains. And when you talk about his feet, then Mother Ganges are. We also remember. All right, text number 25. Continue the meditation now. So feet, legs, thighs, what comes next? Navel. Nabhihidam bhuvanakoshuguhodarastham yatratmayoni dishana loka padmam vyudham harim manivrashastanayo amushya dhyaye dvayam vishadharamayuka gauram. What a beautiful meditation. Amazing. Now, when you think about navel, what happens then? You cannot think of the Lord without his activity. From navel manifests the lotus and Brahma. And this is what the verse says. Navihidam bhuvana kosho guhodarastham. Guhodarastham. What is the meaning of guhodarastham? The foundation. Udar means, abdomen, thumb. So, foundation of what? Bhuvana kosho. The three words have manifested from what? The navel of Lord Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Yatratma Yoni, and who's sitting on that? Brahmaji. The yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel in the center of his abdomen. From his navel, which is the foundation of the entire universe, sprang the lotus stem containing all the different planetary systems. The lotus is the residence of Brahma, the first created being. In the same way, the yogi should concentrate his mind on the Lord's nipples, which resemble a pair of most exquisite emeralds, which appear whitish because the rays of the milk white pearl necklaces adorning his chest, like this. Prabhupada gives a little bit of description about each of this. You can read it in the puppets. Text number 26. So you got the navel, you got the nipples like that. Now what happens next is the chest. Now what is the chest being described as? Vakshodhivasam rishabhasya mahavibhutihi pumsamano nayana nirvatam adadhanam kantham cha kaustabhamane abhibhushanatam kuryamanasya hilaloka namaskritasya. So two things, Vaksho Adivasam, his chest has been talked about, Adivasam, which means Adivasam. Vasa means place of residence. Adivasam means is a resting place for everything. And then his neck has been described, Kantham cha kaustubha manir. And what is there on his neck is a kaustubha mani. But what is more importantly there on the chest? Mother Lakshmi, right? She resides as a white hair, golden hair. Vakshodhivasam rishabhasya mahavibhuti pumsamano nayana nirvatim adadhanam. Like this. The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality Godhead, the abode of Goddess Mahalakshmi. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. Mano Nayana Nirvatim Adadhanam. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality Godhead, who is adored by the entire universe. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustava gem which hangs on his chest. All right. Okay. So Prabhupada and the Purport talks about temple worship in the second paragraph. So now we're talking about meditation. Often we don't do this meditation. So Prabhupada talks about in the second paragraph, the fifth or the sixth line from the top. Temple worship, therefore, is meant for persons who are not so advanced that they can meditate upon the form of the Lord. There is no difference between constantly visiting the temple and directly seeing the transcendental form of the Lord. They are of equal value. Therefore, Kanishtas are encouraged to engage in deity worship. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his writings on the subject of deity worship, it is imperative and essential for every devotee to engage in deity worship. Through that, we begin to develop an understanding of the form of the Lord and develop attraction for the Lord. Therefore, Kanishta Adhikari particularly have to be engaged in deity worship. And when the advanced devotees, they need not necessarily engage in deity worship regularly. They may do it out of their own service preference, but they don't need it now because now their meditation is fixed. And their meditation is fixed. The moment they chant Hare Krishna, they put the hand, the beat back, they're actually worshipping the Lord. And within their mind, by Hare Krishna, when they chant the mantra, they're actually witnessing the form of the Lord. Here, Ashtanga Yogi have to sit and meditate like this limb by limb, but eventually our chanting the holy names of the Lord should be able to bring it. So here is my suggestion. After I complete this section, if you feel like, we can do one thing. Of course, we have got to make some endeavor at our end. We can all memorize the shloka, and I'll help you memorize. We'll make it a part of the morning program, and I'll split maybe before and Mangalati ends in class, or maybe we'll take out some 10-15 minutes and we'll recite. The best way to memorize is just recite. If you all come together and recite two shlokas, around 10 shlokas, and we recite two shlokas, and if you have captured the meaning of it, before starting your chanting, if you recite this, the form of the Lord, you have virtually manifested the form of the Lord in your mind, your chanting will become very effective. How does it sound? So we'll do that. It's a very interesting section, so we'll do that. Just remind me before I forget about this activity. We'll probably start from tomorrow. So tomorrow's Friday. Oh, I have a college program to go. So maybe from Saturday. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, that's the point of temple worship. The advantageous position of the yogi is that he can sit anywhere in a solitary place and meditate upon the form of the Lord. A less advanced person, however, has to go to the temple. As long as he does not go to the temple, is unable to see the form of the Lord. This is what is our situation as of now. We're not able to see the Lord anywhere else. Unless we come in front of the deities, only then we see the Lord. We are not advanced enough to see the Lord in the heart as super soul. So, knowing our situation, let's take certain steps of Ashtanga Yoga, cultivate dhyana, so that we can chant properly. Okay, text number 27. So, the chest and the neck have been talked about. Now, what's remain? The hands. Baham Chamandara Parivartanena Nirnikta Bahubalayan Adhilokapalam Sanchintayat Dashashataram Asayateja Shankham Chatatkara Saroha Rajahamsam. So when you talk about the hands, this is four-hand Chaturbuj explanation here. Then what do you see? You see conch, you see the club, you see the lotus, and you also see Sudarshan Chakra. The Lord's form is getting manifested in your consciousness like this. That's what has been described. When you talk about the hands of the Lord are which gives protection to all. And the example given here through this is of a particular pastime, is of, well, not here, it will come later on. Let's take a look. Yeah, Mount Mandara is mentioned here. Why it is mentioned, let's take a look. Dasha Shataram is about Sudarshan. Okay, leaves the translation. The yogi should further meditate upon Lord's four arms, which are the source of all the powers of the devas who control the various functions of material nature. Then the yogi should concentrate on the polished ornaments. Yeah, this is the point. Polished ornaments which were burnished by Mount Mandara as it revolved. He should also duly contemplate the last disc, which means Sudarshan Chakra, which has 1,000 spokes, dazzling luster, as well as the conch, which looks like a swan and is lotus-like palm. So his ornaments are also being described here, and his ornaments are shining. Now, why shining? In that context, Mandara Mountain example has been given. How interesting this is. Everything has been connected to something. Now, why Mandara Mountain? What had happened in the Mandara Mountain pastime is this is Samudra Manthan Leela. In Samudra Manthan Leela, the Mandara Mountain was taken as what do you call, what do you say? what we'll call it, that churning rod. Yeah, the churning rod. Mandar mountain was used as churning rod, and Vasuki was the rope. अब बेचारे वसुकी तो नानी याद आ गई थी. He thought, why did I say yes before doing what I have to do? Can you imagine Rakshasa holding his neck? राक्षस ने उसका गला पकड़ा हुआ है और देवता ने उसकी पूंछ पकड़ी हुई है. And when it comes to snake, if you step on the snake becomes very agitated. Imagine the Rakshasas are choking his neck. Now when you have to pull, you're really going to press hard now. And here Devtas are pressing his tail and the Rakshasas are pressing his. Anyway, that all got some of them were very fantastically lighter. So Mandara Mountain, he was wrapped around Mandara Mountain and he was being like, the churning was happening. But how do you keep Mandara Mountain stable in the ocean? Mandara Mountain was drowning. And then again the Devtas pleaded and then Lord appears tortoise. So Lord appeared in tortoise, and now the Mandara mountain is on top of the tortoise. And when churning was happening, the Mandara mountain was polishing the jewels of the Lord. That is how it's been described. That how the Lord's ornament became, polished because of Mandara mountain. Polish, ghiske polish karte hai na? So Mandara mountain was used for polishing the ornament of the Lord. Amazing description this is. All right, go to next number 28. So actually here, not four hands were talked about, particularly two hands were talked about. One was Sudarshan Chakra and the second was the conch. So now what is remaining? The other two hands are remaining. So that description comes. Text number 28. Kamodakam bhagavato dayata smarita digdamarati bhatashonita kardamena mala madhurtavarutha girgo Giropagushtam Chaitasya Tattvam Maniyasya Kanthe. So two things have been focused here. Is his Gada. The name of his Gada is Kaumadaki. Kaumadaki. And Kaumadaki Gada means Gada किस लिए होती है? To destroy the demons. The Kaumadaki Gada has been then connected with, it is splashed with the blood of the demons. And the next is discusses Mala. His garland around his neck. And it's so beautiful when you talk about the garland. What comes in your mind? The honeybees and circling around the garlands and the body of the Lord. Mala madhuvrata varutha giro pagushtam. So madhuvrata, which refers to the bees. The yogi should meditate upon his club, which is named Kaumadaki, very dear to him. That club smashes the demons who are always inimical soldiers and speared with their blood. One should also concentrate on the nice garland on the neck of the Lord, which is always surrounded by bumblebees with their nice buzzing sounds. Krishna. They buzz like this, huh? Not Prajalpa. With a nice buzzing sound, one should meditate upon the pearl necklace on the Lord's neck, which is considered to represent the pure living entity, so always engaged in his service. So interesting thing, Kamadaki is splashed with blood of the demons, and then the garland has been described. The garland is nothing but the collection of the pure devotees around the neck of the Lord. Text number 29. And now we are eventually going to the face of the Lord. Bhaktyanukampita dhiya grahita murtehe sanchintayad bhagavato vadanarabindam yad vishpuran makara kundala valgitena vidyotitamala udaranasam. So now you can see the description of face begins. Before face begins, the ornaments around it. The yogi should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord, which presents different forms in the world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent, Udara Nasam, and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earring, Makara Kundalaha. Where have you heard the word Makara Kundala before? Huh?
Damodarashtakam.
Yes, Damodarashtakam, Makara Kundala. All right. Okay, text number 30. Let's come to the face. Yashri Niketamalbhi Parisevyamanam Mutya Swaya Kutila Kuntala Vrinda Jushtam Meenadavashrayam Adikshipat Abjanetram ध्याये मनोमयं matandritta ullasatbhru. Now his beautiful face being described. Kutila Kuntala, Meena Davya Ashrayam, Abjanetram, his eyes has been described. The yogi then meditates on the beautiful face of the Lord, which is adorned with the curly hairs, Kutila, Kuntalaha, and decorated by lotus-like eyes, Abjanetram, and Meena Davya Ashrayam. That is a lotus-like, should be, yeah, 1 second. Meena fish, Ashrayam pear. Yeah, lotus like. And dancing eyebrows is Abja. Lotus like is Abjanetram actually. And yeah, Ullasat Bhru. Bhru refers to dancing eyebrows. A lotus surrounded by swarming bees and a pair of swing fish would be put to shame by its elegance. So, the beautiful face of the Lord being described here now, which is adorned with the curly hairs, and he has a lotus-like eyes and a dancing eyebrows. Okay. Manomayam, dhyayan manomayam atandrita ullasat bhru. Manomayam proper defines the purport is a carving of the form of the Lord within the mind. Manomayam. There's another deity form which is carved within the mind. Text number 31. तस्यावलोकमधिकं कृपयाति घोरा तापात्रयोपशमनाय निःश्लिष्टमक्ष्णो स्निग्धास्मितानुगुणितं विपुलप्रसादं ध्याये चिरं विपुला भवानया गुहायाम्. The yogi should concentrate the full devotion, the compassionate glances frequently cast by the Lord's eyes, for they soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glances, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. His glances, filled with his loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. Text number 32. Hasam Hare Ravanata Kila Lokativra Shokashusagara Vishoshanamatyudaram Sammohanaaya Rachitam Nijamaya Bhrumandalam Munikate Makaradvajasya. A yogi should similarly meditate on the most benevolent smile of Lord Sri Hari, a smile which, for all those who bow to him, dries away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages. Reading the second paragraph. It is stated in this verse that the charming eyebrows of the Lord are so fascinating that they cause one to forget the charms of the sense attraction. The conditioned souls are shackled to material existence because they are captivated by the charms of sense gratification, especially sex life. The sex god is called Makaradhwaja. The charming brows of the Supreme Personality Godhead protect the sages and devotees from being charmed by material lust and sex attraction. Yamunacharya, a great Acharya, said that ever since he had seen the charming pastimes of the Lord, the charms of sex life had become abominable for him. The mere thought of sex enjoyment would cause him to spit and turn his face. Thus, if anyone wants to be aloof from sex attraction, he must see the charming smile and fascinating eyebrows of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right. Text number 33. ध्यानायनं प्रहसितं बहुलाधरुष्टा भाषारुणायततनुद्विजकुण्डपङ्क्ति ध्यायस्वदीयकुहरे अवसितस्य विष्णु भक्त्यारदार्यार्पितमनान् पृथक् दिदक्षे. With devotion steeped in love and affection, the yogi should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. Hare Krishna. Text number 34. Evam haro bhagavati pratilaptha bhavo bhaktyadravadradaya utpulakha pramoda aukantaya vaspakalaya moho ardyamanas tachapi chittabadisham shanakha vipankte. By following this course, this concludes the meditation, the yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. In the course of his progress in devotional service, the hairs on his body stand erect through excessive joy, and he is constantly bathed in the stream of tears occasioned by intense love. Gradually, even the mind, which he used as a means to attract the Lord, as once attracts a fish to hook, withdraws from material activity. So, through this description, we all have an opportunity to do Manomayam, to worship the form of the Lord within our mind. Manomayam is the deity form of the Lord created within our mind. Through this we'll have to probably memorize the shlokas or memorize the description. And if you practice on a daily basis, I'm pretty sure it will have an impact. And let's try. We'll do that for the next few days at least. Okay, so this ends the subject matter of meditation. And then text number 35 onwards, the blessings. What happens? Somebody can read if they have the ability to read. Unmute. Start reading the translation. Text number 35. Hare Krishna. Anyone is reading out? Translation. When the mind is thus completely freed from all material contamination and detached from material objective, it is just like the flame of a lamp. At that time, the mind is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord and is experienced as one with Him because it is freed from the interactive flow of the material qualities. In other words, this kind of meditation is another way of purifying one's mind. And when mind is purified, then it becomes like a flame of a lamp. Have you seen the flame of a lamp? You remember those old days when you'll have those candle lamps? It will be still. But the moment the wind, it will shake. And to prevent it from shaking, we'll cover it by a glass. You cover it by a glass, it'll become still. So all of our, liking, disliking, distractions, all because of we are caught up in the whirlpool of material existence. So mind keeps on, it keeps on wavering. And it is mentioned when your mind gets purified, which means mind gets the strength to be able to deal with this material inability or complexity, and it becomes still. And that's the time when devotee can understand his situation and the situation of the Lord. Like this text number 36. So pyattaya charamaya manaso nivritya tasmin mahim nivashata sukadukka bhaye etattvamapi yasati kartare dukhayoryat swatman vidat upalapta paratmakashtaha. Translation, somebody?
Thus situated in the highest transcendental stage,
the mind
It's
ceases
audible
from
for the
all
online?
material reaction and becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental to all material conception of happiness and distress. At that time, the yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He discovers that pleasure and pain, as well as their interactions, which he attributed to his own self, are actually due to the false ego, which is a
So this
product
is
of ignorance.
a self-realized situation where now a person is completely detached or have withdrawn himself for the bodily concept of life. And what happens, how he sees at this point of time, he can see that he doesn't act. It is all the misconception created by false ego. Like this, he has nothing to do with the happiness and distress of this world. Therefore, if you remember, in our last relationship management seminar, I was making a point of mentor and mentee relationship. We're talking relationship at 3 levels. How many of you attended that? Okay. The last relationship management seminar. All right. So most of you were there. So we are talking about triangle of fulfillment. I was thinking today morning, what should be the title for the next seminar? I was thinking triangle of frustration. Now we talked about fulfillment. We have to talk about the frustration also. What is the triangle of frustration? Well, I'll tell you next time, but I can come back to this topic. And we're talking about the 3 levels of relationship: self-expression and giving shelter. In that relationship, when we're making a point, oh, while talking, I just skipped my head. I got distracted. So while making this point, I was talking about triangle of fulfillment. I was talking about mentor and mentee relationship. In mentor-mentee relationship, then I spoke about the job profile of mentor, job profile of mentee. And then I spoke about what to ask. Mentee is supposed to ask, what kind of questions to ask. And then I said there are three kinds of questions that can be asked by mentee. But often these are the questions which are never asked. And everything else is asked to a mentor, which is not the job profile of mentor. Okay, you can have a counselor. Of course, now I will not say mentor, mentee. I'm talking about Shiksha Guru for that reason, or Diksha Guru. In relation to Guru, three questions only should be asked. In relation to mentorship, you can ask because you're also supposed to provide and facilitate your physical and emotional well-being. So there you can ask. So what in relation to Guru, what kind of three kind of questions can be asked? Who remembers? What are the three questions? Please raise your hand. What are the three questions to ask? Yes, Atul Prabhu. How to grow in spiritual life. Very nice. What else? Yes, Neeraj Prabhu. How can I serve you, Vaishnavas, and Krishna? How can I serve better? What else? The last two are covered. What's the first one? No, the first one is covered, and the last one, the second one is remaining.
How to improve ourselves.
Yes, Madhurima, please hear from you. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavata. How to improve ourselves in spiritual life.
Hare Krishna.
How to improve ourselves in spiritual life. How can I do to matlab?
So that was the point which is mentioned. How to improve in spiritual life.
Service to Krishna and devotees.
Three things were had mentioned. One, how can I improve myself? How many of you think there is a need to improve oneself? When was the last time you asked this question?
Service attitude. Service to
How long
Krishna.
ago? Well, because you don't see the need to improve, therefore never a question is asked like this. Second, how to improve my sadhana? How to improve my spiritual practice? How many of you see there's a need to improve one's spiritual practice? Raise your hand. Let's take a look from the online audience. When was the last time you asked somebody, how can I improve my spiritual practice? If you have not asked, then you don't know, you don't think that you even have to improve your spiritual practice. All right. And the third thing is, how can I render service to Guru and Gauranga? How many of you think there is a scope of improvement in rendering of service? Now, how many of you think that I don't have even sufficient seva? I need some seva, meaningful seva. Please raise your hand. Well, if you think like this, why have you not ever asked such a question? This is first step of self-realization before you can understand the body but soul. First of all, understand the fundamental of what self-realization. I mean, we have made a joke out of this whole, self-realization here. Interesting. Anyways, okay. So where were we? Text number 36. Text number 37. Deham chatam nacharama sitam utatam va siddho vipashyati yato adhyagamaswarupam daiva upetamata daiva vasadapetam vaso yatha parikritam madira madandaha. Because he has achieved his real identity, the perfectly realized soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting. Just as an intoxicated person cannot understand whether or not he has clothing on his body. So, very interesting point. One who is self-realized, for us, we are told to understand there is a spirit soul within the body. So in our current state, we are going through a bodily experience where we are a soul. But when somebody who has realized he is not the body but spirit soul, then he's completely going through a spiritual experience, which means he does not even have an experience of a body. Then he's reminded, Sir, आपका शरीर भी है. थोड़ा शरीर का भी ध्यान रखो. That's the point here. An example is given, just like a person cannot understand whether or not he has clothing on his body. Now, which person cannot understand he has clothing on his body or not? Intoxicated. Very well. We have spiritual intoxication. We have mental intoxication. Now we are promoting intoxication, but spiritual intoxication. All right. So, like I was saying, I reminded by talking about intoxication, you all have to call up, right? Your contact. So tell them, there's a biggest intoxicating party coming up. Last time I just said, tell them there is a party coming up. Now we're going to change that. I'm going to give you a new recording and tell them we are welcoming you, inviting you for the biggest, our most sought after, the biggest intoxicating party. You will be given beverages for free in unlimited quantity. पूछोगे क्या पानी पिलाएंगे ना? You know, when you're traveling रथ यात्रा पानी पिलाया जाता है ना, वो beverage हो गया ना हमारा. You know, so let's call them intoxicating opportunity to intoxicate yourself to the full at free of cost. How does it sound? That fellow will come now, yes or no? ISKCON is hosting the biggest intoxicating party of the year. All right. Okay, text number 39. Yata putra cha vittacha prathan mritya pratiyate api atma vena bhimata dehadhai purushastatha. Because of great affection for family and wealth, one accepts a son and some money as his own. And due to affection for the material body, one thinks that it is his. But actually, one can understand that his family and wealth are different from him. The liberated soul can understand that he and his body are not the same. Now, before we can talk about liberated person, and before we can understand the son and the wealth is not mine, what would be the first step in developing this understanding? That the son and the wealth is not mine. What will be the first step in developing this understanding? The son, which means the family member, and the wealth is not mine. For everything, there are clear set of instructions. What will be the first step to it? ये मेरा नहीं है. Yes, Pratik bro. नहीं, theory हुई. ये तो theory हुआ. An action. What is the first step? This is the family and this wealth is not mine. What will the first step to realization? Yes, Ishan. Yes, to engage all our family members and to use our wealth for charity. Then only. Saying that ये family मेरी नहीं है, wealth मेरी नहीं है, हम bank account भर के रखा हुआ है. You know? I mean, this is the joke of the year. This is strange. All right. Text number 40. यथोल्मुखाद् विस्फुलिङ्गाद् धूमाद् वापि स्वसम्भवात् अपि आत्मत्वेनाभिमता यथाग्नि पृथक् उल्मुखात्. The blazing fire is different from the flames, from the sparks, and from the smoke, although all are intimately connected because they're born from the same blazing wood. Very fantastic analogy is given. It said the flame, let me ask you, flame, when you think of the flame, what else comes to your mind? Flame, heat, perfect, and light and smoke. Correct. Three things comes. Heat, light, and smoke. But the flame is different than all three. Although it is inseparable part of it. You know, when you fire a wood, when you ignite a wood, or when you set wood to fire, the smoke will not come. Light will be there because of heat or because of the fire, and light will be there. So the blazing fire is different from the flame, from spark, from smoke, although they're intimately connected because they're born from the same blazing wood. The example is given for the soul being different. Text number 41. Bhutendriyantah karana pradhana jivas samagnatat atma tatha pratak drashta bhagavan brahma samagnataha. The Supreme Personality Godhead, who is known as Param Brahma, is the seer, is different from the Jiva, all individual living entities, combined with the senses, the five elements, and the consciousness. You can read out the purpose for yourself. For these, we'll come to the conclusion. Text number 42. Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshetananya bhavena bhuteshu ivatat atmatam. Guess what is the meaning of this verse? Ikshetananya bhavena, ananya bhavena talks about devotion. Yogis should see the same soul in all manifestation, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme. In this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is the realization of the Supreme Soul. Ananya bhavena, bhuteshu yuvat atmatam. This is all talked about the self-realized yogi now. Text number 43. Swayoni shveda jyotir ekam nana pratiyate yonina guna vaishamyat tadatma prakatostaha. Fire is exhibited in different forms of wood. So in the different conditions of the modes of material nature, the pure spirit soul manifests itself in different bodies. So the fire is compared to the soul. So just like in different types of wood, wet wood, dry wood, the fire manifests differently. Similarly, according to the three modes of material nature, the soul accepts different kind of body. So which means when the soul comes in contact with modes of material nature, it manifests itself in 8.4 million species. Or it can take to those forms. So how the soul manifests depends on the kind of body you've got. How the fire will act will depend on the dry wood or the wet wood. So how the soul will act will depend on the kind of body you got. Male body, female body, or a dog body. That's the point being explained here. So the whole perspective has been changed, which means what is being described here, what is being described entirely over here is the yogi has been it has been explained that the yogi sees the presence of the soul and the super soul in all. To help us understand that, it has been said that the same soul, just like a fire, when it comes in contact with wet wood or dry wood, it acts differently. Similarly, when the same living entity comes in contact with modes of material nature, it acts differently. But it is not that its soul has become different. It is the body under whose influence now the soul is behaving differently. Like that has been explained. So which means when you see different kind of bodies, it is not the body which is acting. It is a soul which is animating that body. And the soul is one. Text number 44. One means in quality. Tasmadima swam pratyam daivim sad asadatmikam durvibhavyam parabhavaya swarupena vatishtate. Thus, you can be in the selfless position after conquering the insurmountable spell of Maya, which presents herself as both the cause and effect of the material manifestation, therefore very difficult to understand. Somebody please read the concluding paragraph. Those are not the puppets. There's the last verse, right? Text number 44. Somebody read out the puppets.
Stated in Bhagavad Gita that the spell of Maya, which covers the knowledge of the living entity, is insurmountable.
It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that the spell of Maya, which covers the knowledge of the living entity, is insurmountable. However, one who surrenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can conquer this seemingly insurmountable spell of Maya. Here it is stated that the Devi Prakriti, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord, is Durvibhavya, very difficult to understand and very difficult to conquer. One must, however, conquer this insurmountable spell of Maya, and this is possible by the grace of the Lord when the God reveals himself to the surrendered soul. It is also stated here, Swarupena Vatisthate. Swarup means that one has to know that he is not the Supreme Soul, but rather part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. That is self-realization. To think falsely that one is Supreme Soul and that one is all-pervading is not Swarup. That is not realization of his actual position. The real position is that one is part and parcel. It is recommended here that one remain in the position of actual self-realization. In Bhagavad Gita, this understanding is difficult as Brahman realization, defined as Brahman.
After Brahman realization, one can engage in the activities of Brahman. As long as one is not self-realized, he engages in activities based on false identification with the body. When one is situated in his real self, then the activities of Brahman realization begin. The Mayavadi philosophers say that after Brahman realization, all activities stop, but that is not actually so. If the soul is so active in its abnormal condition, existing under the covering of matter, how can one deny his activities when free? An example may be cited here. If a man in a disease condition is very active, how can one imagine that when he is free from the disease, he will be inactive? Naturally, the conclusion is that when one is free from all disease, his activities are pure. It may be said that the activities of Brahman realization are different from those of conditional life, but that does not stop activity. This indicated in Bhagavad Gita 18.54. After one realizes oneself to be Brahman, devotional service begins. Mad bhaktam labate param. After Brahman realization, one can engage in the devotional service of Lord. Therefore, devotional service of the Lord is activity in Brahman realization. For those who engage in devotion service, there is no spell of Maya, and their situation is all perfect. The duty of living entity as part and parcel of the whole is to render devotion service to the whole. That is the ultimate perfection of life.
Kapila Prabhupada, which means bhakti. In Ashtanga Yoga, Prabhupada is bringing the concept of bhakti, because it's not possible for us to really sit and meditate as been described and practice the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada says the best form is take to the process of bhakti. Thus, and the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the Canto 28th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Lord Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. And now further will come explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila. Devati here in the next chapter, in the first 5 verses, will inquire about the path of bhakti. And also there will be discussion on eternal time and birth and death. And then here discussion will begin on the bhakti according to 3 modes of material nature. So do you know you can practice bhakti in mode of ignorance also? So what would be the symptom of bhakti in mode of ignorance? And there is bhakti in mode of passion, and there is bhakti in mode of goodness. And you would maybe thinking now, we were told bhakti will take us beyond all the 3 modes. Our bhakti itself is another mode. So that is what is described. We'll see it next time when we catch up. That will be the subject matter of next chapter, chapter number 29, about bhakti in modes, bhakti beyond modes, the time factor, etc. So with this, I'll pause here for today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Hare Krishna. Thank you for your kind attention and joining us for today morning Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Panchanga Pranam. I'm new to this session. Kindly please
So, all right, there are no hands up and no comments for the questions. So we close. Hare Krishna.